Customizing some of my clothing is really where I got a lot of my start in my quilting and sewing career. So I am so excited to present to you today how to make your own custom hoodie featuring both sewing and quilting techniques. Check me out. Ready to get started? Let's get that t-shirt all ready to be customized down to mount to that awesome hoodie, right? Now, I have no idea what I may want when I approach a project. I love to do this just custom, piece it as I go. So I'm just gonna take a standard pair of scissors and I'm gonna go up the side seam of the shirt. That way I'm wasting as little as possible and I'm keeping all my fabric as square as possible. And I'm gonna come up here and go around this sleeve like that, up across the top. And what I will be looking for as I start to dial in the actual design I'll be borrowing from the shirt here is I want to make sure I've left a little bit of additional fabric around the design, because when I'm going to stitch on the inside of that line a little ways so that I can actually have it unravel a little bit after it comes out of the washer and dryer. So that's a really good point while we're getting this prepped out. I want you to understand there's going to be a couple of great tips and tools that I'm going to give you for your tool belt today. The first one is whenever you're doing something like this and you want the thread and the texture to really kind of react to the design you're using, you're going to do everything unwashed. So my sweatshirt was not washed and my t-shirt was not washed, and I'm using polyester thread that will not shrink as much, so I get more character after I wash it all down, and that gives some of that rough edge as you saw when I had it on at the beginning of the show today. So with that, I've got part of my Man Sewing logo coming out of here, and now I also have the other piece, very easy to get a hold of. Once I've separated it down, that's when I want to use my rotary tools, because I want to still have a nice squared design or rectangle. Okay, and the way I do that is with the ruler and the cutter. I am going to go ahead and let the lettering, because that's something that I can see as a consistent in my actual t-shirt design. I'm letting the lettering run below the line of a ruler there, and I'm going to cut way down here because I want to be able to capture all of my lightning bolt. And I also want to be able to have just enough so that it ravels up. Now at this point, it looks like I've got about an inch or so past there, so I'll do just the same to the top, or I can also use this bottom edge. That's a nice square edge now. If that happens to be, and it looks like it's going to be just about perfect here. And we'll do the same to the sides. And the front logo works just the same. So I want to show you how to put one of your appliques on the sweatshirt, and then I'm going to teach you how to do that awesome detail to the sleeve. So we're just going to show you one of these, but the stitching, that's the other tip I want you to see. We're going to do some really easy, oh, let's get this right here. How's that? I didn't know where to put it. We're going to give you some really easy stitching technique to get dialed in for your logo. Now, placement on your sweatshirt, I'm going to take and basically reverse as you saw the t-shirt. So my back of the t-shirt design is going to end up on the front of the sweatshirt, and the machine ends up on the back. So on my sweatshirt itself, the unwashed blank, we'll call this, you can see there's a chalk mark. And the way I did that is I actually put the sweatshirt on my body to find out where I wanted my logo to lay. This is not the one I'll be putting here, but if this is what I'm referring to, I want this logo to lay like this. And I wanted it not to get covered up with the hood, and I didn't want it to be sitting right up on my shoulder blades. I wanted it down a little low. So I literally put the sweatshirt on, I take my chalk pencil, I reach behind myself, make some marks, and you'll see that's where those marks came from. So that would be the top of the design I'm going to drop in on the back of the sweatshirt. I've got this prepped, so let me just show you the front. The front, the placement is more based on what you like because of the way the sweatshirt's going to fit. I know ladies like their designs a little bit different than guys sometimes just because of the way we're built. And so I'm just going to look at this and I'm going to place it kind of equidistant between the pocket and the top of the hoodie. And I'm kind of centering it right like this. Now, I'm going to be stitching around all of the edges, but I do want to secure it with safety pins, and I don't necessarily want to secure it to the back. So I'm going to reach in here, and I'm going to just pin the top to the sweatshirt itself. So my hand is under there, keeping me from pinning it to the back of the sweatshirt. Lay that down. Now, both the sweatshirt and the t-shirt are going to have some give. So what I want you to think about is, remember when we did our jeans, we used a stretch stitch. And the stretch stitch is like a straight stitch or zigzag, but it multiplies itself. So it goes back and forth several times, which adds strength to the stitch and to the thread and makes it much less likely to break when it flexes. So that's why it's called a stretch stitch. It's used in stretch style sewing. So what I'm going to do for this is I've got a free motion foot on my sewing machine. My feed dogs are down, but I'm not going to go free motion around in just a big rectangle. I'm going to go free motion a few stitches and free motion back a few stitches. Free motion forward a few stitches, free motion back a few stitches. So I'm creating the effect of the stretch stitch, and what that does is it kept everything from puckering and ending up very odd as I went around the sweatshirt. Sometimes you'll find it's really easy to just go ahead and remove the free arm. We'll certainly need to do that as we're getting ready to do the sleeve. I'll just take it off now because I want to point out we're only sewing to the front right now. So I want to make sure as I reach through here and lay this down, I'm double checking to make sure I am only stitching to the top. Okay, and I'm going to talk you through this for a little bit and then we'll bounce into caffeinated mode. So there's a little mark on my foot. I'm looking at the edge of this. I want to make sure my presser foot's down. I'm going to take a few stitches in place to really lock that in. Okay, and now I'm going to sew forward maybe an inch, and I'm going to sew back an inch. Then I'm going to sew forward an inch, and then I'm going to keep going another inch. Now I'm going back 1 inch, and you'll be able to see where you were. And this is kind of that fun. I got into doing this kind of clothing when the grunge look was really popular again. So if raw edge and ratty tatty, aka you bought your clothing after it was drugged behind the transport vehicle to the market, if that look is what you're after, you're gonna love this. So I'm just going back and forth, and it actually lays that t-shirt onto that sweatshirt ever so nicely and really helps us when we go to stretch it on over our body. I'm at a corner now, so I'm just going to sew this direction. So I'm bouncing into caffeinated mode. Go ahead and follow along. Just note, I'm going back and forth to set that, that stitch so that it really has some good strength and security without pucker. Here we are back from caffeinated mode. Hope you all had a nice coffee break here as I got this stitch down. So the front applique has already been applied, and just a reminder around all 4 sides, if you're struggling or free motion is new to you, obviously lots more pins than I use. You can see you want a little bit of give and texture and pucker. This is the look we're going for here. But what I really want you to be aware of is if you're struggling because of the 2 stretchable layers, maybe you should be using something like the lapel stick to really help hold it down, or lots and lots of pins, or safety pins is another good tip. I'm very comfortable working around those sharp pins. It's just been something I've been doing for years, but you know, treat yourself to some safety. Okay, let's move on to these sleeves, right? Because the sleeves is what I really, really love doing. And no, we are not taking the sleeve apart. We are not gonna open it up. I wanna teach you this, and it's really cool on dress shirts as well. So we're gonna actually free motion machine stitch right on the free arm. So what we wanna do is we wanna lay this out. So sometimes you have to kind of put your body in the shirt so you can kind of figure out where it's gonna be positioned. A lot of times when these sweatshirts come fresh from you know, the t-shirt shop or whatnot, they're already nice and creased, so it's a real good flat surface to work on. I want to go ahead and take the time to transfer something like my needle logo as well onto the sleeve, right? So I think that's going to be really fun. What I have right here is the wax paper for tracing, and I'm just going to go ahead and just kind of push on it a little bit to make sure that I've got the correct orientation of my paper. Then I'm going to drop this in right where I want it. And then I like to use something like a red pen, because with a red pen I can see where I've been marking, and you're pushing into that sweatshirt material. So you kind of see I'm sketching. I'm really going to need to see that line. And I'm only putting the lines on here that I need because I will be moving it and manipulating it a bunch. So if I had a lot of marking to do, I would mark a little bit at first, come back and mark a little bit more so that I'm not wiping all of the markings off as I go, because we're going to do a lot of manipulating with this. We're going to do that same back and forth style stitching, and we're going to really take our time with this, and it works really cool when it's done. So you get all your marking done like that, okay? If you want to do the thread as well, Just draw that out. I'm just going to do a single line for myself. We can carry that through, at least that far. Okay, like I said, we can run that out later. Now when I lift this up, I can still barely see. So I actually take the time to come back in with my chalk pencil and I do it again, because when we're moving this over the free arm, it's going to be a little bit tricky. This is not for the lighthearted. Actually, it's good. You need a light heart. You need to be a real jovial about this, because you're going for that rough finish. But if you've never free motion machine quilted, please watch some of my tutorials on free motion machine quilting and practice on something flat and something soft and something that doesn't move so much first. Get your skill set up and then come and try this out. But watch this. It's marked in. I'm going to take the sleeve and I'm coming up through the cuff where my hand goes. This is the other reason I like to not wash it first, because I want to be able to wash it and tighten that back up when I'm done. And I'm going to come down here and I just wad as much as I need up onto the free arm as possible. It is easier to sew closer to the cuff than it is closer to the elbow. So let's start up at the elbow, get the hard work done first. And I'm just going to go ahead and drop my presser foot, take a few stitches. And just like when we went around the applique, I'm going to take a few stitches, back up, take a few stitches, back up. And what this does now is it gives a lot of really nice texture and design without using a really heavy thread, and secures those stitches as well. This kind of work will really swell up nicely after it comes out of the washer and dryer. But if I had a desire to do a bunch of machine quilting in background right now to really pop this motif, I'm going to first sew around all of the chalk, because you can see how it would come off so quickly. So I really want to get all of my motif down of my needle first, and then I can come back and play with additional designs. And you might have caught on my finished project that I actually started playing with 2 different colors of thread. And of course, there's been times in my life where I've gone ahead and stitched on it, and then after it came out of the wash, it still needed a little bit more. So I stitched on it some more. And that's the fun thing about customizing anything that you can. And probably one of the first reasons I got myself involved in the fiber arts is because I loved customizing things. Started with a snowboarding jacket, moved on to curtains for my Volkswagen van that I was living out of while snowboarding. And then from there, I felt like I could do just about anything with a sewing machine. Made all kinds of silly gear and stuff. Little history of the man sewer from Man Sewing there for you. Now, I'm going to bounce up and I'm going to finish the eye of the needle. So to finish the eye, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a couple of stitches, stitch, 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 to lock it in place. I'm going to raise my needle, and then I'm just going to create what's called a jump stitch. I'm going to pull a little further than I need and come back, and now I'm going to be able to go ahead and drop that at the tip. And now for the eye, I basically can just kind of do a few circles or ovals. Come back in where I started, lock that in, and now I'm just going to go ahead and cut my thread so you can see. So yes, doing free motion machine quilting up the free arm of a sewing machine is not necessarily easy. But if you just do a little bit of stitching at a time and you do all of your marking, you're not trying to create or trying to do all of this quilting. You're just simply stitching along your chalk line, a few inches forward, a few inches back to do a nice security. And when you're all done, you can go wild and crazy. Check it out. Here's those 2 colors. I'll bring it in a little bit closer for you. So on my sweatshirt, I put my scissor logo, like you see here, right in here, and I started playing with the second colors, and this has been washed. So you can see like the scissor handles and the flames and everything are starting to pucker up. The second wash will do even a little bit more. And on the other side, there's the needle and the thread. And if you look real close, I even tried to make it look like the thread was going through the eye of the needle. And this is a lot of fun and a fantastic way to take a very common gift that guys love, like a hoodie, and make it super custom for the person you're about to give it to. So I tell you what, start sending those photos in, link them into those comments below so I can see all the awesome new garments you've all created. And I got to get back to work making something new here at Man Sewing.